Now, cases with tempered glass have become quite the trend in the market, but the problem is that they aren't that affordable. Everyone wants to showcase their PC components with that professional glass look and dope reflection, but not everyone has the bucks to spend. Now, thanks to CoolerMaster, this is now possible. You can now afford a case with tempered glass and RGB fans. Meet the updated version of Masterbox 5, the Masterbox 5 Lite RGB Tempered Glass Edition, and it is priced at 5,000 INR and $80. The price point isn't competitive as there are rarely any cases on the market around 5,000 bucks which have tempered glass on it. Anyways, let's take a look at the design aspects. The build quality is excellent for a case in this price point. The chassis feels sturdy and surprisingly the case isn't that even heavy with the tempered glass. The front sports a dark mirror front panel which is made of one single glossy plastic material which isn't too much of a fingerprint magnet. Removing this panel, you are greeted with 3 pre-installed 120mm RGB fans which can be replaced by 2 140mm fans. The I/O selection is fairly simple. A reset button, headphone and microphone jack, power button, 2 USB 3.0 ports and a hard drive LED indicator. Now CoolerMaster had decided to ditch modularity and added some customization to this case. That means along with your regular accessories like screws, standoffs, cable ties, there are interchangeable trims of 2 other colors. So in my case, white and red. So you can select the desired color trims to match your setup, but I think I'll keep it black. So if you want to go one step further, CoolerMaster offers schematics on its website for owners to 3D print their own trim to sync with the color scheme and RGB lighting. The bottom of the case really shows off the trim on the lower side of the front as it also acts as a filtered intake for cooling. The tempered glass is beautiful. It's not fully transparent as it's a bit black tinted, which I dig a lot. It's held by a long notch below and 2 thumb screws through rubber grommets and is also padded by a few pieces of rubber around the edges. Now my only complaint here is that there is a gap above the tempered glass which for me ruins the design language, and it looks like the tempered glass isn't flush with the side of the case. As it is glass, it's prone to scratches and fingerprints, so keep it clean using a microfiber cloth. The rear side shows a typical layout. The lower PSU mount with removable bracket lets you slide the PSU in and out of the case easily from the exterior via 2 thumb screws. There are 7 expansion slots just below the motherboard I/O area, and next to it is a 120mm fan mount. The rear fan mount features slotted mounting holes allowing a 120mm radiator to be positioned as needed inside, which is handy for AIO liquid coolers. 2 thumb screws, which are unfortunately not captive, let you remove the right side panel. This side gives you access to the lower chamber as well as a pair of 3.5-inch drive trays. There is a good amount of space, that is 35mm, behind the motherboard tray for wire management, as well as a huge number of stamped loops for tying bundles of cables down with zip ties. The loops are even wide enough if you consider using Velcro straps. The case is elevated with rubberized case feet, and there is a cheap flexible filter mesh for the PSU fan grill, which I'm definitely not a fan of. On the top, there is nothing. Even a 120mm fan mount would have been a good addition, CoolerMaster. Anyways, now let's take the internal tour. Even with the mid-tower footprint, the layout is super clean and simple. The long power supply shrub beautifully divides the layout into 2 parts. The main chamber comes with a single 2.5-inch drive tray which can be mounted on these 2 locations. But if you have a large AIO radiator in the front which will block the view of your favorite SSD, you can mount it on the PSU shroud. The front can support up to a 360mm AIO radiator which is up to 50mm of thickness, and the rear has a 120mm pre-installed RGB fan with the support of a 120mm AIO radiator. There is one thing I am skeptical about the layout, and that is the airflow, as there are no fan mounts on the top. It's just a solid metal piece and there is no ventilation. There is no place for the air to flow in or out from the top. Now let's talk about the building experience. We were excited to throw in our expensive Threadripper build, which you can all watch in a link down below in the description, inside this budget-friendly enclosure, and surprisingly it was not at all a bad experience. The build looks clean and gorgeous. Being a mid-tower, the build doesn't appear congested. I really appreciate the placement of cutouts near the motherboard tray and on the power supply shroud, as we didn't face any issue while routing PSU cables and I/O wires. But I would like to address some issues we faced while building. The space between the power supply unit and the hard drive cage wasn't enough. It was a bit of a challenge to route the cables from the PSU to the back of the motherboard tray, and this in turn made the cable management much more difficult. I wish there was a possibility to move the hard drive cage at different locations like we saw on the Masterbox 5. We did use some cable ties, but because of the use of more cables for our expensive Threadripper build, cable management was challenging for us. The I/O wires were creating an installation issue for the radiator. So if you are going to install a radiator, make sure you first install the fans and then the radiator on it. And while on the subject of wires, the fan wires were short, so it was difficult to connect the fan wires to the fan headers on the motherboard. So we had to use a Molex connector provided with the case, which is no biggie if you don't want them to be controlled from the BIOS. But keeping these issues aside, it was fun building in this enclosure. There are limited storage options, so I would like to see one more SSD tray included in case you decide to raid. But if you are a first time builder and need something that looks shiny and doesn't empty your pockets, this is the best option right now. So all in all, this case caters to most of the PC enthusiasts looking for budget friendly but also a case with exquisite looks. But sacrificing modularity for other great elements like RGB, tempered glass is for you to decide. So thank you for watching this video. Thank you CoolerMaster India for sending us the case. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and feel free to check out our previous videos, and I'll catch you all next time.